Well, I really want to thank everybody for coming today. Again, my name is Pat, and I'm at the Fort Atkinson Hometown Pharmacy. You'll kind of see me sometimes at events and different things as well. I'm a certified nutrition coach, that's my CNC, and then the DSS is a dietary supplement specialist. And a lot of people also know that I'm a wellness champion. So I really want people to be healthy, and I really want to thank you guys all for coming and Liz and Mother Mindy for having us here today. Because while we are a pharmacy, we would prefer that you not need to be on medications for the rest of your life. We would actually really prefer that you be healthy, that we be able to help you with your food choices, supplements if you need them, before we have to go down that path of having medications long term. Medications are awesome, but we want to use them when they're appropriate and not have them be necessarily kind of a crutch when we can kind of fix things ourselves. And so, a lot of people, you think about blood sugar and you think about, well, diabetes, right? It's the first thing you think about, diabetes. But blood sugar affects many other parts or systems in your body besides just being diabetic. So obesity is a disease that's caused by excess calories, which is excess sugar in your body, right? So if you take in more calories than what your body can burn, you're going to create, excess fat, but it's not just fat, it's excess sugar that makes that excess fat. So think about if you are filling your sink, right? You're gonna do dishes, you're gonna fill your sink. Well, if you overfill your sink, what happens? It winds up everywhere. Well, same thing kind of happens with sugar. It winds up everywhere. It winds up in your liver. It winds up causing problems for your kidneys. Winds up causing problems for your teeth. Diabetes in and of itself, we know, can cause problems with your skin, with your eyes, all kinds of different things. And pretty soon, your blood pressure is going sky high. So it's kind of like this waterfall effect where it starts up here and it just whoosh, starts to come down. So one of the ways that we measure blood sugar is with A1C testing. Now we can do A1C testing at the pharmacy. No appointment necessary, but we like to have you make an appointment just so we can be prepared, but it's not necessarily you can walk in and have it done. We don't charge an office visit like you get at your doctor's office. But that kind of tells you what your blood sugar's been doing over the last 3 months. The thing is once your A1C starts to climb up and your doctor's starting to go, well, you're maybe pre-diabetic. That thing has been going on for a really long time. Your sugar levels and everything have been working its way up. You think about the things that happen with your body, right? Your blood pressure doesn't get high overnight. Your blood sugar doesn't get high overnight. All of those things don't happen overnight. Things that take a long time to get to that point. So we want to head it off before your A1C gets high. We want to start monitoring it before. Same thing with your cholesterol. Before your cholesterol gets bad, before your blood pressure gets too high. We want you to start learning how to eat properly. So think about back when you were a kid. How did you eat when you were a kid? What did your parents feed you? Anybody?
Vegetables. Meat and vegetables.
Meat, potatoes, vegetables. Right? Bread. But what was the bread like that? Really squishy bread, or was it bread that was like more homemade bakery style?
Wonder Bread.
Wonder Bread.
And then we use the bakes later on.
You use the bakes to put in your roots.
Yep.
So, but if you think about those foods are whole foods, right? You would eat vegetable, you would eat a fruit, you would eat meat, you would eat. Did you have a lot of processed foods? Did you go to, I remember when I was growing up, we didn't go to McDonald's or fast food restaurants very often. That was a big treat if you went, right? That was like a once in a while thing. Now, people go all the time. And what's happening to our society? We're getting fatter, right? And we're getting sicker. So it's not a surprise. So one of the things that we want you to kind of think about doing is eating whole foods. So a lot of the things that you're eating today are whole foods. You can, so let's talk about fruit, right? Everybody's like, fruit, it's sugar, right? It is fructose, but if you drink juice, if you drink a portion of juice, and if you have a whole fruit, does it have the same effect on your blood sugar? No. Do you know why? The fiber, right? When you eat the whole fruit or the whole vegetable, you get that fiber and that slows everything down. So like your glucose levels don't go sky high really fast like when you drink juice. When you drink juice, it's not much different than drinking a soda, right? You're getting all that sugar. So we want to make sure we're eating our whole foods so it slows down that process. So the glucose isn't going right through us. The fiber is slowing things down, giving our body a chance to use it instead of it all being stored as fat. Make sense? All right, so how much added sugar do you think is, I don't want to say recommended because I don't want you to actually think you should have added sugar, but what's kind of like your upper limit? Does anybody have any ideas what your upper limit is of added sugars? Per day. Right, so how much added sugar? So I don't want you to think about the sugar that's naturally in fruit because that fructose is okay. But if we look at added sugars that we would find, so like if you read a food label and it says it has 10 grams of sugar and there's X amount of added sugar. So that means that we're putting extra sugar in there besides what is already the natural sweetness.
Like a couple teaspoons?
So if we think about teaspoons, we're going to think about the maximum added sugar a day according to the American Heart Association, and it's probably data that's going to be updated at some point because it's probably a little much. 6 teaspoons added a day for females and 9 teaspoons for men. So how do you convert that into that, like when you look at the food label, you look at the grams. So it's 4.2 grams per teaspoon. So if we round it to 4, it's gonna be like 24 grams of added sugar a day is your upper limit if you're a female, and if you're male at birth, then you can go up to 36.
And just a hint, that's one of the questions on your quiz.
kind of hitting those quiz questions, so I'm making sure we get that. So how do you, when you are at the grocery store, how do you figure out, should I buy this, should I not buy this? Yeah, you read the label, right? So you have to look at those added sugars, and if you see, well, if you pick up something and it's got 24 grams of added sugars, that's your sugar for the day, folks. You get that one thing, that's it. So if you were gonna drink a can of soda or drink that juice, you're probably gonna blow your whole sugar budget for the day. Oh yeah, you blow your sugar for the day. And then some. So the jury is a little bit out with the diet soda. So it depends on who you talk
There's a
to.
reward pathway where your body is sensing that sugar and anticipating it. And so a lot of time, okay, that doesn't spike your blood sugar, but you haven't fulfilled that reward pathway. So then later, your body is still looking for that sugar, and even though you have that diet soda that didn't spike as much as a regular Coke, then you're still craving it, and then sooner or later you're gonna stumble into some sugar that you were feeling like you avoided.
Right. And then there's some studies that even say that while it doesn't spike your blood sugar as much as a full sugar soda, but there are some studies that are showing that it does bring that blood sugar level up because your body thinks it's sugar. It's like it's still reacting.
And while you're looking at those labels, you'll see way more of added sugars in the United States. The added artificial sweeteners are going way up because, you know, they know we're paying attention now. You know, people like Pat are out there saying, hey, stay away from sugar, and everybody's looking for those artificial sweeteners, and so those are going way up right now, especially compared to other countries in our country because
They're more
they know
careful
we're
in
on
other
to them.
countries.
Yeah.
So when you're in the grocery store, does anybody have an idea of what the percentage is of, no, we're not talking about the nice outside part of the aisles where we want to be, yes, sir?
Does salt and pepper affect the sugar?
Not your sugar, no. The salt and pepper, those are different spices, and they don't, salt has a different effect on your body than what sugar does, and so does pepper. So you can salt and pepper, of course if you have kidney disease, you want to watch your salts, but sugar affects kidney disease, so chicken or the egg, right?
You gotta pick one, pick the salt and pepper,
Yeah, I'd rather have you pick, you know, and here's the thing, there's so many spices out there that we don't use. We use salt, we use pepper. But thyme, oregano, paprika, rosemary, I mean, there's a list of spices, you know, miles long that we can use instead of or in addition to the salt.
I was really belly aching about not using salt.
Yeah.
And my sister said, well, why don't you try some smoked paprika?
Yes,
Now
it's
that
so good.
is so much better than salt is.
Yeah. It tastes wonderful. You know, or like if you took some dill and put it on your vegetables, it tastes fantastic. So, you know, you can experiment a little bit, and those different spices are actually good for your microbiome, so you're doing good things for your gut on top of it all. So it's really good for you to have those different spices instead of keeping it the same. We kind of, especially here in America, I think we kind of get into a food rut. We kind of eat the same things all the time. We eat the same vegetables. We eat the same things. And so we don't do as much good things for our microbiome as what we could if we would kind of mix it up a little bit and try something new once in a while. So getting back to those food labels, because, you know, sometimes those are confusing and hard to understand. But did you know that 76% of the things that are in your grocery store have added sugar?
How much did we say?
76%. 3/4 of the food that you go buy, so including bread, things that you think are savory, bread, tomato sauce, you know, salsa, all the things you have to look at that you wouldn't think have added sugars to them. 76% of those items have added sugars.
I have another question.
Yeah.
What does stevia do? Anything?
So stevia is a natural sweetener, but it does not have the same effect on blood sugar like.
Did you want some sugar added to it? No, thanks.
Doesn't have the same effect as sugar does, and so you can pretty safely have stevia or allulose or monk fruit as a sweetener that isn't going to have the same impact on your blood sugar as all the other sugars. So when I say all the other sugars, now 61 was the one that I chose because I've seen other ones that there are more, but there are 61 at least different names for sugar. So when you're reading those labels, and I did give you guys a handout on this one, 61 different names for sugar. So when you're looking at a label and you're like, well, I don't see sugar on here, we're good. Right? And you really gotta look at those added sugars, because really crazy things, so like agave nectar, that one you could probably figure out that it's, you know, something sweet that could probably spike your sugar. Maybe not as much, but still. But if I said caramel, would that make you think sugar?
Yeah.
Yeah? How about, oh, this was a good one. Dextrin.
Yep.
That's not-
Dextrin would make you think sugar? That girl. How about mannose?
I don't know what it is.
No idea, right?
No, it's not.
Right. How about sour gum?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So sugar, maltodextrin, molasses, yes.
Who wants to eat something with maltodextrin? It sounds horrible.
Right. So if it sounds horrible, it's probably a bad idea to eat it, right?
And if you can't say it, I mean, you probably.
Right. If you can't pronounce it, probably not. Yes.
So are they natural sugars or some chemical?
Some are natural sugars and some are not.
Because I would
They're like-
think that the sucralose is an artificial one. Is that a
So,
natural one?
so there's different molecules.
Oh, okay.
Getting eaten by a bear is natural, it doesn't mean it's good for you. So
Right.
that's-
Yeah,
So
I know.
honey is a great sweetener and I love it. And it has some health benefits to it as well because it can help with like allergies and it's really interesting. You can eat local honey. There's good things that you can do, but you can have too much of a good thing. The thing is to remember that you can have some honey or you can have some sugar, you can have some molasses, you can have some maple syrup, but don't douse it. You know, you look at the commercials for like, you know, pancakes, right? Pancakes that are delicious, but they are so high in sugar, even before you go and put on the syrup, you know, because that's all refined carbohydrates there. That's just gonna go right, you know, that's gonna go sugar all day.
Well, and so Pat talked about fiber earlier with it, but pace makes a difference. Like if you don't eat it so fast, then your body can crank out enough insulin that you can deal with it. You know, like and I don't know if we'll get into GLP-1s and kind of how emptying slows and but you see the Ozempic commercials on TV. Part of not only does that make you crank out more insulin and make you more sensitive to the insulin, but it slows your gastric emptying so your body can deal with that sugar in a more appropriate way.
Right, so it's all that slowing things down. So like if you were gonna have your pancakes, but you made it with, something that's whole grain versus refined flour, it's gonna help you slow down that process a little bit, right? So we've been talking a lot about sugar, but what really happens with sugar, Mike was starting to allude to, is that so you get this insulin response, right? So your body naturally makes insulin. It needs that insulin to control your blood sugar, so your blood sugars aren't all over the place. So for a while, we can eat like a teenager and eat whatever we want, and we're fine, right? Because their insulin is just taking care of business, right? But over time, our insulin, we are just going to keep dumping more insulin on top of more sugar, on top of more insulin, on top of more sugar, and eventually, your body doesn't respond to that insulin anymore. So the
What
insulin
about
that
dark
you're making-
chocolate or milk chocolate?
I would go dark chocolate all day long. It's delicious and it has some health benefits. So if you were gonna have a little bit of chocolate, I would go dark chocolate. Milk chocolate has less health benefits to it. Yes.
I'm addicted to sugar.
Being addicted to sugar is addicting.
So how can I break my addiction?
So kind of like any other addiction, you have to kind of, some people, they need to back it off a little bit at a time and just try to go a little bit less sugar this week and then the next week a little bit less and a little bit, pick one thing to stop eating. But then other people, they gotta go cold turkey. And it's a really individual approach.
How can I go cold turkey?
You wanna go cold turkey? Yeah, it's hard to go cold turkey, but you cut out the added sugars. You have to kind of take the bull by the horns and decide that this is just what you're gonna do for yourself.
Lent is coming, I'm out.
Wait, do it for Lent.
So
With God's help.
one of the things that I did, I was in low carb support group for a while, and it's not because I was heavy. I just wanted to learn. A lot of the people in there were heavy and working at it, but they broke us kind of into two groups, and it was helpful for me to kind of learn which half I was in, because there were moderators that could, they get halfway through their plate and they're always going to leave some. That sort of person, I'm not that guy. My wife has a thing in the fridge from the restaurant that she'll eat tomorrow, and mine's gone. Whatever I got, I'm going to eat. So I'm an avoider. And so for me, I eat 12 hours apart, so I know I'm gonna eat a little too much in the morning. My blood sugar is gonna go a little bit high, but I've learned the things that don't spike it, so, you know, pears and beans and berries and stuff that taste sweet to me, but they don't spike my blood sugar. And then I'm gonna take a long time in between so that my body can crank out enough insulin, deal with it, get my insulin back down. There's this concept called autophagy, and sorry, I'm getting way off the rails
No,
here,
you're
Kat,
all right.
but autophagy is that part when your body's not working on the sugars, when you can repair stuff and your macrophages can get rid of precancers and all the different healing that your body can do because it's not working on digesting food all the time. So I try and space that out during the day. I'm lucky I got a job where you know, people keep coming at me. I can go eat if I want to.
We don't get them any food.
But avoiding may be better than trying to say, okay, yep, I'm only going to eat so much of this. For me, I've got to have a plan where I've got foods that are not high in sugar and all that other stuff is out of sight because
Right.
I'm going to pounce on it.
Well, one of the theories is that if you give your body enough protein, so if you're not good on protein, if you give your body enough protein, you won't crave as much sugar. That is a theory. So one of the things that I like to have people do is when they are trying to eat better, so we have that healthy plate. And I'm sure you've seen like the My Plate or the healthy plate. So you want to be able to get like 5 fruits and vegetables in a day, and that's the size of a fist, right? So think about the size of an apple, the size of an orange. That's your serving size. So if you were going to have green beans, about the size of a fist. So, but then you want your protein to be about the size and the thickness of your palm. So that's a good way to remember, okay, that's a serving of protein. But if I was looking at it in terms of grams, I mean, I can get into the numbers and say, okay, I want you to have like 0.8 to 1 gram per pound, you know, per pound of desired body weight, not necessarily your body weight, but what you want to weigh. That's how much protein I want you to get in a day. I can bet you, like the vast majority of you are not getting enough protein. So to keep it simple, like I say, I want you to try to get 30 grams of protein every time you eat. Well, a chicken breast is about 24 to 30 you know, depending on the size of your chicken breast, 24 to 30 grams of protein. That's a chicken breast. So I want you to get that. Now, like an egg is a good source of protein, but that little egg is like 6 grams of protein. So you gotta eat a lot of eggs if you're gonna get that 30. So you wanna kind of, and you can get plant-based protein as well as animal-based protein, but you want to make sure that you're getting all the amino acids. So if you're strictly vegetarian, it's kind of sometimes hard to get that leucine amino acid, and I can get a little deep on this part, but if you think about, we want to prioritize the protein and your fruits and vegetables. That's where you should be getting your carbs from, is fruits and vegetables, not a big old plate of pasta, because that pasta is going to go right to your belly. And so, I mean, whole grain pastas and whole grains have a place. They absolutely do. It's just that generally in our standard American diet, they take too big a priority on our plate. So we really should be thinking about that, you know, that fist or less. And nobody eats that much spaghetti. Right? Everybody has a plate of spaghetti, but if you kept it smaller and then prioritized the protein and the vegetable part of it, then you would have a much better balance in your food, and it would help with your sugar cravings because your body is getting what it needs. If it's not getting what it needs, it's going to continue to crave things, and most likely it's going to wind up being some form of sugar.
And store-bought spaghetti sauce has tons of added sugar.
It does.
The cheap ones. The expensive ones are more whole, but the cheap ones have a lot of added sugar.
Yes. And you know, that big whole like low-fat craze that we went through back in the 80s and 90s, where everything was supposed to be low-fat this, low-fat that, you know, how they made that change is they added more sugar. So if they didn't change their ways between now and then, which why would they unless we call them out on it? You know, you're gonna still wind up having all of that additional sugar and fat, so.
What do you do when you get tired of eating chicken or something like that? I mean, I look
Right,
at it
you're
and
tired
go,
of chicken.
yeah.
I think it's okay to eat some red meat. I'm not against red meat but it should be sustainably sourced. So, you know, you're better off going and getting it from the farmer, and we're lucky where we live.
Yes.
Because we have access to farm-raised beef and pork and chicken and all, you know, we are very lucky where we live. But, you know, I think there's a place for red meat. Not everybody agrees with me on that. But you don't have to eat it, you know, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. You know, you change things up. So you can do different things with your chicken. You can have turkey, you can have pork, like pork chops, you know, but not all the time. You know, the best thing you can do is to not eat the same thing every day. The best thing you can do is to kind of change it up. It's best for your microbiome.
Can I share a couple interjections?
Yes, please do.
It's so hard for me to hold back, because Pat and I can each talk your ear off. And then
We could be here all
way over
day.
our time. So to Mother Mindy's question, and this is something that makes me really angry, and I hope that all of you guys it will make angry, because you know, that 76% she was talking about that have extra sugars, that's not just because of taste, it's because sugar is so addictive. You know, somewhere there's a CEO that's gonna make his bonus because he knows if he puts enough sugar in there, then you can't eat just one, and they're gonna sell more product. And to me, you know, lately, and I think Pat listened to that one too, listened to some health advocacy kind of lobbyist type folks that you know, you think back to seat belts and bicycle helmets and
Being able to smoke in restaurants,
right,
remember I smoked
public
the smoking ban,
you know,
right?
all these things that have changed over history, I feel like sugar and foods will at some point be regulated. I hope they will.
I hope so.
But that's part of the problem. You know, you say that store-bought pasta sauce, it tastes great, and I can't have just a fistful because I put the pasta sauce on it, then I'm getting all that sugar, and then I look at that sugar and I want some more of that, and then you eat more and more. And then to your point with the food, it matters what that animal ate. You know, and to Pat's point, you know, naturally grown stuff. We could get on another tangent when Earl Butz was the agricultural secretary in the 70s, and we went big with farming, and we separated, you know, the cattle would be in a feedlot over here with their food and water close together, so they'd have good marbled meat that actually has metabolic syndrome that they're passing on to you, and then they're not pooping in the field, so that then all our foods are nutrient depleted. There's a lot of things with our food system that, and then to your point about labels, I gotta go to the grocery store, I gotta read every one of these labels. There's a bunch of stuff that doesn't have labels, like an apple or a bunch of berries or.
If it doesn't
the
need
Whole
a
Foods,
label,
right?
it's a
Yeah.
good thing to eat. If it doesn't have a label.
So that's part of that too.
So going off the conversation about sugars and foods and, you know, you'll see marketing labels saying, oh, sugar-free, but you look at the ingredient list, you're like, oh, there's definitely sugars in here still. You know, there's like sugar alcohol, there's sugar, there's stevia, there's all these other things, so how do you?
Yeah, it may not be sucrose, it may be something else. Yeah, maybe a high
Right.
fructose corn syrup, and it's way worse than sucrose.
Right.
Yeah, and if it says it's sugar-free, it's probably using some kind of an artificial sweetener, or it could be using stevia, which is a natural sweetener.
Right. So
But it
how does your
has,
body digest these different types of sugar?
and that's exactly it. Some of these things we don't even know yet. You know, the science isn't even complete. I mean, science is always evolving, right? And the best thing I can say about that is when we know better, we should do better. But a lot of times, and without getting on a political rant, but not that you were ranting. I'm looking at you to keep me under control because I could go on this same rant. But what happens is when we know better, we don't do better because money's involved.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a reason why everybody still wants you to eat that cereal for breakfast in the morning, even though it's terrible for you. But, you know, it's because of all the
Cereal, they show you a picture of it on the front of the box, and the bowl is just Like this, that's not what you're supposed to.
No, that's
Five
not how it's
circles
supposed
in
to
the picture,
Yeah.
You know, his question in the back there is maybe a great segue to the testing side too, where the report card piece of how do we monitor ourselves to
Right.
see how we've been doing so that we can adjust.
And, and that's one of the things. So, you can go, when you go to your doctor and they test your blood glucose levels, they'll do like a fasting glucose test, and you can see if you're below 100, you're fine, and if you're above 100, you're not fine. Is kind of what happens sometimes. But there's more nuance to it than that. And so then that's a picture of that one moment in time, right? So that's just a picture of this moment. So then A1C testing, that shows us kind of an average of what's been going on over the last 3 months. So that one gives us a little bit broader picture. What I would love to see is that we did more fasting insulin testing, because that's kind of a better indicator of what's going on before things get bad. But as it stands right now, most docs don't do that fasting insulin testing, but they will do an A1C, and they do the glucose testing. We do the A1C, and for us, I'll be right back, don't worry about the camera. All right, so this is our test that we do. We do these in the pharmacy. It's a finger prick. We don't even have to draw your blood for this one. We do a fingerprint, we send it into the lab, and we get your A1C results. And if you are checking your A1C on a fairly regular basis, most docs are only going to test it once a year, right? So we only know what you were doing for the last 3 months. So let's say if your physical is in September and it's summertime and you've been eating all this really great produce and you've been eating really good, great, for the last 3 months you've been doing good. Your A1C is great.
You've been going for a walk, by the way.
And you've been going for a walk.
If you gotta have
don't
that
let me
sugar,
forget, I
you
gotta
go for
talk
a
about that
yeah,
walk.
burn for some-
But let's say your physical is in January. And so now we're looking at Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. And your A1C looks terrible, right? So testing your A1C maybe more than once a year might be a good idea if you're wanting to monitor your blood sugar more closely. Doesn't mean you need to do it every month, but maybe twice a year or 3 times a year or even 4 times a year, like once a quarter, to see what's going on, to make sure that your blood sugar levels are not getting out of control is not a terrible idea. Doing it with us is a quick way to do it where you don't need to, it's not covered under your insurance generally at this time, but you don't have an office visit. So you just come in, you get your blood test done, you're out the door, boom, done.
So how much is that? Office visit and you want to come.
So it's $50 to do the test, $49.95 plus tax. And then you also get the consult from Mike or myself or Lauren to just go over your results and to give you, hey, yep, that's good, no, it's not, you're kind of creeping up after last time, you might want to, and then you can talk with me and we can give you some great strategies to try to keep that blood sugar under control. Because there's more than just, just eating your protein and your veggies and your fruit. There's some other little strategies that you can do. They're kind of little hacks, right? So one thing is you prioritize your protein. If you're super hungry when you get home and you're trying to make dinner, and instead of snacking on like a piece of bread or a candy bar, if you just heated up like a small bowl of vegetables and you ate that fiber in those vegetables would start to fill you up and you wouldn't eat as fast, you'd slow down. So when you eat your dinner, you're not gonna snarf it all down and overeat. So it slows you down a little bit. Think about the way we used to eat all the time. If we had a sit down dinner, you had your salad, and then you had your main course, and then you had your tiny little dessert, right? So now we eat so fast and we're all on the go. The thing is you gotta slow down a little bit, and sometimes we wait until we're too hungry to eat, and then we're just, eating everything in sight, So take a moment and just, eat a vegetable before you start your meal. Yes,
Or if you go to a restaurant too, you know, they have these big keeping, main on courses.
yes,
You know, or like the never-ending pasta bowl. Or,
Yes.
You know, any other restaurants, you know, buy one, get one free or something like that.
right. You have, they just gonna keep feeding you.
And the oils, like a lot of
The
time
oils.
when you eat out, you know, vegetable oil, corn oil.
Yeah, you don't have any control over
I was
those
gonna say,
oils.
chefs are not your nutritionist or your guide.
Yeah.
They are not.
They're there to feed you,
Well
make sure
said.
you like it, so they're gonna add lots of
And so
butter
that you
on
come
it.
back for more.
Right.
Yes, they wanna make you
I'm
happy.
wondering if you could talk a little bit more, maybe I missed it, but meat consumption being crazy as it is, what are some alternate resources or alternate sources to find that protein?
Great question. So if you're looking for like plant-based proteins, so you want to look for as complete a protein as you can find. So plant-based proteins, most of them are not complete. Soy is one that is complete, but you got to get organic soy because otherwise you're going to wind up with a lot of chemicals and things in it because soy is really one that's hard. You know, it's got a lot of chemicals in it if you don't get the organic. But it is a complete protein. What you want to do with those kinds of proteins, with plant-based proteins, is you want to combine them so that you can get the complete protein. So rice and beans together. There's a reason why vegetarians eat a lot of rice and beans because those two things together,
Cheap.
it's cheap and it makes complete protein when you eat them together. The problem with plant-based proteins is that you have to eat a lot of them to get enough. So like you would have to, where you would eat like a palm-sized amount of a animal-based protein, when you go to a plant-based protein, you gotta eat like 2 cups of black beans to get the amount of protein that you need. So you're eating a lot, but you're also getting a lot of fiber. So I mean, it's all a matter of your preference in which you believe. That the thing is to just get the right food combinations to get the complete proteins.
I'm just saying sometimes it's, for me, I probably eat like once a week.
Yeah?
Because if I eat more than that, I get really sluggish and I'm just like, yeah. I feel like-
Yeah, if it doesn't sit well with you, then you're better off with plant-based proteins. Not everybody is good with that.
Right.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody needs to eat individually for what makes them feel good without, you know, and I say, well, what makes you feel good? I mean, think about this for a second. Because while it feels good when you're tasting it, it doesn't necessarily feel good afterwards, right? So you're like, oh, these cookies are awesome, right? And you eat like 6 of them, and then you need a nap.
Part of why I have to have a glass of water is because I left out in the car my shaker bottle with the plant-based protein. Pat sells, he's got like 5 different flavors.
Yeah, I've got all
So
kinds of
So
protein.
and this morning on the drive here, I had my beans and my eggs.
Do you do the plant-based or do you do the clear? Because the clear is a way.
No, I do the plant-based one right now, the
Yeah.
smaller jug.
Oh yeah, I like those.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got the jug, but it
I got
looks like
chocolate
pond
too.
water, and I didn't want to be drinking pond water in front of you guys. So it's not the car, so.
It doesn't always look good.
Yeah. But
So,
it
and
tastes
then-
good. It tastes good.
Another trick is like to dress your carbs. So let's say you're like, I'm gonna have an apple, right? Apple's a great snack, right? But if you're a little worried about it spiking your sugar or making you not feel satisfied, if you dress those carbs, by dressing I mean add a little bit of protein to them. So if you had maybe a slice of cheese with your apple slices, or if you had some nut butter, some peanut butter, some seed butter with those apple slices, then that will kind of give you a little bit more satisfaction for your snack. Yes.
So I know you all had kindly offered to do an A1C.
Yes.
And we kindly had a volunteer.
Fantastic.
And so maybe this would be a good time to transition because
Absolutely.
you're gonna do the.
Yeah, I am.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right, so anybody that's squeamish about blood, just look away. But then this might be a good time for Mike to present.
Yes.
What you're thinking.
Talk a little bit about A1C numbers and whatever else makes you happy.
Sure, okay.
Okay.
Just, All right, well, you guys just, go about your business, and I interjected some of my best talking points that I was gonna share. Maybe I should, while I'm stalling for Pat here, does anybody have any questions or diabetic med questions or anything?
Mike, can I have you stand
I mean, we
up?
talked about the
Mike,
GLP-1s a little
can I have you
bit.
stand up?
Oh, we talked about the GLP-1s a little bit, which is like Ozempic and Wegovy and all the stuff you see the ads for. And I see people have really good results with those sometimes. And that's part of my business. I don't want to disparage those all the way, but at the same time, a lot of those are $1,300 a month that people, even if we get it covered on your insurance, somewhere we're all paying for that. And so, for me, just as a human being and a member of the community, I would much rather see us not get to where we need a dose to get back on track, and we could go down Pat's path
That's Pat. Just ask Pat.
of proactively avoiding those sugars and carbohydrates. And they make me a little bit nervous. I've had some people with kind of that slowdown in gastric emptying, where it overshoots the mark, and then they're struggling with constipation, and it doesn't necessarily recover right away when they stop, which makes me super nervous. But that's a small subset of the people, and I've got folks, I'm always talking, and so I ask them, hey, how to work? How'd your A1C go? Yeah, I was 9, and now I'm a 6, just like that, and I didn't have to put in any effort. I didn't have to go get on the treadmill. Okay, that's the American way. We want that easy fix. I lived through the fin craze. My pharmacy at the time was just selling a ton of that, and then one of my best technicians left to go do echocardiograms on people that had heart damage after, and so I don't think there's an easy fix to sugar, but there is a fix, and it starts with education. All those other social advocacy things that we talked about, that they talked about the nanny state when we were going to mandate seat belts, and now you pull out of the driveway, you don't have your seat belt on, your kids start screaming at you right away that no, we all wear our seat belt. If we can get young people to start understanding sugar, it's hard to think of us as a society not saying, oh, it's your birthday, we're gonna make you a big cake, and what's your flavor of ice cream? Just some of our traditions have gotten away from us a little bit, just because it's gotten to be so much more common than what it should be, as far as the volume of sugar, or even the helping, the serving size of things. So
We're feeding our children and our grandchildren so much yogurt. The tubes, here have yogurt, for the most part, is loaded with sugar.
Loaded with sugar, absolutely.
It's just terrible.
And a lot of it doesn't have the probiotics that we think we do. It's not live culture yogurts that I'd much rather, along with my beans and eggs, I have a little sprinkle of natural sauerkraut on there. That's not for everybody in the morning, but I've learned enough about our gut microbiome. That's one of the things with fiber. Why does fiber help lower blood sugar? It's because, and especially if you've got good fiber, like Pat carries one that's got 12 different types of. It's got soluble and insoluble fiber. The insoluble fiber forms kind of a lattice work, and then the soluble fiber forms kind of a gel, and that captures that sugar and it moves it from your gut into your intestine. And in your intestine, that's where your microbiome lives. And so it pulls that sugar to where, instead of getting absorbed in your gut and into your bloodstream, it gets into your intestine, and then it feeds your microbiome instead of raising your blood sugar. And so then that healthy gut bacteria that forms the barrier, that concept of leaky gut. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but sugar loosens those tight junction bonds in your gut that is to keep all the stuff that's passing through you, and it lets it get absorbed back into the body, which is a driver of inflammation. And inflammation, 93% of us are inflamed. Sugar is a big part of that. And that inflammation drives all these different disease states, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, muscle and joint pain. All that can be reduced if we've got a healthy gut microbiome and a well intact microbiome that keeps things where they're supposed to be.
What about the song? Sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar in the morning.
Somebody's great marketing, right?
What does A1C stand for?
Hemoglobin A1C. Let's see.
Annulated or attenuated.
I never have to say it anymore.
Yes.
School's been a long time ago. I can't
We could
answer
probably
that.
Google
That's,
it.
That's good. The next time I get asked that, I can guarantee I'll be able to answer that.
But could you tell us the range and what we look for?
Oh, that's a great question. So Pat made the point. I want to make sure that didn't escape to you. And so I'm going to segue into your question right here. So insulin is kind of like, so if you've got one child, you're super attentive to them. If you've got 5 kids, you can still kind of pay attention, and maybe one's stuck with a problem, and you're kind of seeing that look in their eye, and you say, oh, can I help you with that? If you got 1,000 kids, pretty soon you're not talking to any of them. Some of them are running out this way and that way, and that's what happens with blood sugar. It causes our insulin to raise so high, and your insulin is what takes that sugar and stores it as fat. It's what's dealing with all this sugar that we eat. And so that insulin starts getting high to the point where it gets overwhelmed, and that's why your body quits being as sensitive to insulin. So we hear that insulin sensitivity thing all the time. Your body needs to respond to that insulin, so then it will take sugar and deal with it, and if there's too much sugar, it just gets overwhelmed. And so that insulin being high all the time, you may not have a high A1C right away. Because A1C is just your average blood sugar over those 3 months. And so your insulin could be crazy high, but it's dealing with it. We're just hanging on. We've got just enough kids that we can wrangle them all, but we're pretty high. At some point, that insulin starts getting overpowered, and that's when that A1C starts going up. And so when somebody tells me they've got an A1C of 9, we're off the rails. We're because that insulin's been fighting for a long time, and now it's starting to lose the battle. And so mine right now is I'm right about 5, and I'm hoping it'll be lower next time. I've been on the treadmill a little bit. Pat's kind of got me fired up, and I'm trying to burn up some of my times when I fall off the wagon and have a little bit of sugar. But I was up to about 5.9, which was enough to qualify as pre-diabetic, and I was eating really well, but I was eating too much, and then I wasn't doing enough to burn those calories off, and so that's when I went to the timed eating. That helped right away. A couple supplements, the berberine was just like metformin. It's one of the ones she's got a handout for there that when I eat a meal, it will keep it lower. And the reason I knew how well it worked is I wore a CGM for a while. And so Medicare is only going to cover your CGM if you're already on insulin and you're tough to monitor. I think eventually, someday, we'll have that on our wristwatch, or there will be easier ways. There's a company called Levels that I'd like to learn more about. Where
There's another new one too.
Have a subscription. Eventually, there will be better tools so we can start monitoring, live data of our blood sugar before it gets way off the rails. But again, if we keep that A1C at 5, that's pretty good. When we start hitting 5.9, that's when we start worrying about. My mom is not going to listen to me because she once changed my diaper, so I must not know what I'm talking about. But she's well over 9 and eats the way she always did. Who was it? What was that one we were just talking about that you heard somebody that was super high?
That was Lauren's friend in Hawaii. The one that was, he stopped all of his medications, and it was like 19, did you say it was like 19?
High
and he
teens,
stopped all his medications but was taking meth.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
You mentioned about sauerkraut.
Yeah.
So it must be right in, like with a probiotic.
So it depends on which ones, it's the ones that are in the refrigerated section that has that bag that's all kind of bloated because it's already, kind of cranking out some good.
Yeah, it's not the canned sauerkraut.
Yeah,
The canned sauerkraut doesn't have all the probiotics in it anymore.
So in the bag, in the refrigerated
So
section?
yeah, the refrigerated, sometimes it comes in a jar too.
Oh, a jar, okay, yeah, we buy the one.
Yeah, but in the refrigerated section.
How much do you eat in a day?
So, one of the things, I just have a just little scoop in my
Because you're
morning
not the first
breakfast.
person, my chiropractor also eats it with every meal.
Yeah, so I eat it just in the morning, even though I'm German, I can only handle so much sauerkraut a day. I do take a probiotic from the Pharmacist as well, one of the higher quality ones that's got 7 strains of good gut bacteria. So Floragen's been around for forever. That goes all the way back to when John and Becky had the Pharmacist. That's got 3 strains of good gut bacteria. And then it's not as stable, so you got to keep it in the fridge. They've just got ones that are now they keep learning and learning. There's a spore-based one where it's going to it's really durable and it gets through your stomach and all that acid in your stomach, and then when it senses the change in acidity when it gets to your intestine, then it releases the stuff. So there's all kinds of new stuff that, and Pat could walk you through them if you ever want to study. But I do that every day, and then in my bowl of fruits and vegetables that don't spike my blood sugar as much because I measured and tested, I try and mix different ones in there. I go to the produce section and say, I had a dragon fruit, I've never had that before. So then I'm always trying to do a new one, so I'm exposing my gut to different bacteria. So that's what I do. So there's lots of ways you can work at it. It's like all the other health things, you learn and you read something else and you work at it. I'm prattling on, Pat.
You're fine. We got our A1C test done, we're good.
Okay.
I want to add one more hack for you guys because I think it's important. Mike was talking about exercise. I want to get you on that.
Let's switch this up.
Alright, so exercise is really important for blood sugar control, but you can keep it simple. So if you went for a 10-minute walk after each meal, it would really increase your blood sugar control. Your body just needs that movement. It needs it. So if you just went for a 10-minute walk after each meal, that would help. It would go a long way. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be doing a sprint. If you don't want to go outside because the weather's icky or whatever, if you just walk around your house for 10 minutes. Keeping active instead of sitting down and taking a nap, watching some TV. Yes.
Do you agree with, like we were talking about, it's winter and people don't want to go out and stuff? Okay. If you are sitting, but you're marching in place.
I think that's better than not doing anything.
Okay.
Right, so there's different levels of exercise. So my folks, neither one of them are, my dad is now most of the time in a wheelchair, and my mom uses a cane. And we just got them one of those little ellipticals where you sit, and it just, it's better than not doing anything because that increase in circulation and all of that, everything is, a lot of times we think about our bodies as so separated. I think that has to do with kind of some of the way our medical system works now. If you have a problem with your gut, you go to the GI guy, and if you had a problem with your foot, you go to the foot guy. you know, and everything is so separated, but our body, everything in it it works together, and if you can't separate it from each other. You just can't. So
Well,
yes.
There's this
I do
concept
exercise
called exercise
class,
snacks too, where you
a lot of the elderly people where I work, they cannot get up and do all these things.
Right.
So we do a lot of chair.
Share, yes. Like, and there's a great videos. Be good now, Pat. Don't go on a tangent. But there are some great free videos on YouTube, free, that are like seated Tai Chi, seated yoga, and you're getting that blood flow going. And I like Tai Chi, especially if you don't have a lot of movement, because you don't go 100% with Tai Chi. You're doing like about 70% of extension, and if that hurts, you do less, right? It's the idea is to just have movement. And it also helps with balance a lot and different things. But even if you're just seated, you can do those exercises to the best of your ability, and any movement is better than no movement. Yeah, great question. I mean, we could sit here and we could talk with you guys about this stuff like literally all day and come back next week and have more to say. But what questions do you guys have that we can answer for you? Anything? Okay, if you get home and you're like, oh man, I wish I had asked this question, right? Either stop down and see Mike and I down at the pharmacy, or give us a call. You know, we are more than happy to take time and answer questions, and you know, and if all else fails, we can make an appointment and make the time to sit with you if it's gonna be like a longer question kind of a thing. We want to help. We're not gonna, you know, oh sorry, we're too busy. Never, never. We always make time for everybody. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on water.
Yes.
You know,
Please
so
drink
you
it.
drink so much water, but you hear it all over the
Yeah.
place. And there's people that drink the flavored water or think that coffee counts or whatever. How much just plain water should we be drinking?
So the caveat with the plain water is it filtered or is it non-filtered?
Yeah,
Whether you
filtered
need
with
to.
osmosis,
So,
reverse osmosis.
right. So because your body does need a certain amount of minerals. You know, like everybody wants to stay away from the minerals, but really you do need a certain amount of minerals. But a good rule of thumb is about half your body weight in ounces. So a 150-pound person would drink 75 ounces of water throughout the day. The more isn't necessarily better, but sometimes it is. You know, in winter time, we need to keep drinking our water. You know, sometimes when it's hot out, it's easier to drink more water, but in the winter time, it's actually a desert out there. So you want to make sure that you're still drinking that half your body weight. And that's just a good rule of thumb, you know. 8 glasses of water isn't for everybody. Some people need more, some people maybe need less based on their body weight. But if you did it by body weight, you'd be in a good ballpark there.
So having something where you measure with too, because a lot of people don't realize how little water they sometimes drink in a day. So, and my math is right on with yours, because I drink 8 ounces an hour for the first 10 hours of the day. But how do you keep track? 8 ounces an hour. How in the world do you keep track of that? Well, that shaker bottle that I've got my fiber and my creatine and you know, kind of my morning stuff. That's 4 of those. And so I drink my big shaker bottle, and I just have to keep track, okay, how often am I gonna go fill that up with my filtered water
So
again?
some people will take like a water bottle and put rubber bands around it, and every time you drink a bottle, you take a rubber band off. And then you get no rubber bands left, you're good, you know? And if you get like 3/4 of the way through the day, you're like, oh no. Because you wanna try to drink your water earlier in the day so that you don't, so you're still getting hydrated, but you're not having to get up 3 times in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom because you drank it all at the end of the day, so.
Oh my goodness, we didn't talk about the importance of sleep with blood sugar too, because
That is another thing, and I don't want to forget that because that's really important. But do you know that if you do not get good sleep, that will mess with your blood sugar? You can eat perfect, and if you don't get good sleep, your blood sugar will go up. among other problems.
That's one of the things I saw when I wore my CGM, it was the
Yeah.
same thing, and then I do meeting prep and get 5 hours
And get no
instead
sleep.
of 7.5, and then all of a sudden my blood sugar would be higher, yeah.
And you would see it, having that CGM, I think, to Mike's point, when he was talking before about, they're starting to come out with some that you can actually purchase, like Level. But once that becomes available, it is a fantastic learning tool, even if you only
Can
do
you
it
guys
once.
share what that is?
So CGM, continuous glucose monitor, it goes on your skin. It's got a little needle in there.
So even if you didn't have coverage for it, you could get a prescription from your doctor, you bring it to the pharmacy, we run it through and you'd get a box with a couple of, it's got like a little thing that's shaped like this, that you just pop it right on, and I do it for people all the time because they're nervous, they think it's gonna hurt, and it's no big deal, you just pop it right on, and then it's like a little button that's stuck on you, and you wear it for 2 weeks, and then for a lot of people, we just sync it to your cell phone, and that's what I did with mine, because I don't want to carry it. They make separate phones just for it, but then you have to pay for that too.
Yeah.
Probably costs $75 to get through, what was it?
Like a 2 week.
That might even have been a month, right? Because I think 2 came in a box.
No, I wanted a box.
And what's the value of
Yeah, it's
that?
true.
What is the value of knowing, how did you?
So the value of it is knowing how your body reacts to the different things that you eat and do. So you can see when you get a good night's sleep what's going on with your blood sugar. So one thing, like you can see where exercise comes into play. You can see what happens if you have a glass of wine at night before bed. That'll actually make your blood sugar drop. Sometimes too low, because hypoglycemia is bad too. So you want that balance. You don't want it to be too low and you don't want it to be too high. You want balance. And it is going to go up and down. It's not going to stay steady all the time, because that's not good either. So there is some variability. It's just that where is your variability? It has to be within range. You can see what different foods do. You can see what different combinations of foods do. So you can just see real time what it's doing to your blood sugar, and what it's like an hour later, and what it's like 2 hours later, and then what it looks like when you're getting hungry again. What does it look like after you exercise? What does it look like, any time of day? No matter what, you can just see it. You can see that history and kind of go, oh, geez, maybe I shouldn't have had that piece of cake. Or, maybe I should have had, a good meal and a littler piece of cake. So that's the benefit of that is just being able to learn how your body reacts, because everybody's different.
And they really are easy to put in.
Yeah, because you have one, so.
I do, I'm
Yeah.
not on, I changed it, I was gonna change it, and I was running late, I thought about it, I didn't wanna get home. So it gives my arm a time to.
Will, was there something that surprised you, like when you saw, like what your blood sugar was doing and something that you were doing, exercise or food or something?
Yeah, I always look to see what it is in the morning, and I take it before I go to bed, and then several times during the day if I feel dizzier than I normally am.
Well, you can set alarms with it too, and as each generation, they get better and better and better, and so that was, to Pat's point, if you're on meds for blood sugar and you're gonna change how you eat, talk to your doctor about that, because one of the things we worry about is low blood sugar, because high blood sugar, that's dangerous over time, right? We're damaging our organs, we're long-term, we're headed for trouble. But low blood sugar it can be an emergency right now, all the way up to death. And so, if you're on a bunch of stuff to lower your blood sugar and all of a sudden you drastically change your diet, we just want to make sure that we don't drop. And that was one of the things I started taking berberine to lower my blood sugar. And I put that alarm off the first night. My wife and I didn't know what was going on. I jumped up and spun around in circles because I'd never heard it before, and I didn't know where it was coming from, and I didn't realize that it was just the factory settings, and I dropped below 50, and I was just 49. I wasn't like crazy low. But it was,
Mine would drop low in the middle of the night, and I'd be like, ooh, what is that?
But you didn't crash.
I didn't crash, but a lot of diabetics could, because if you're
Yes.
taking aggressive meds to lower your blood sugar and then you change, maybe the bad eating habits that required those meds in the first place, then we just have to be cautious.
Because I have a sister-in-law, and when she gets too low, she'll start appearing like she's drunk.
Right.
So you gotta give
Yeah.
orange juice or something
Yeah.
to bring from that hypo
Right.
up to.
Right, and then that's another really important point too, is like, we would love to see you like be able to prevent all of that so that you never have to go through having to be on insulin and having to worry about, oh my gosh, is my blood sugar too high? Is my blood sugar too low? Am I crashing? Do I have a candy bar handy? Because you always have to worry about both ends once you are, in that diabetic realm. So we want to, and when you look at like the GLP-1 drugs, those are very expensive, especially if your insurance doesn't cover it for whatever reason. And those are the ones that you see on TV, like the Ozempic and the Mounjaro and the Zepbound and all of those things. They're for weight loss for some of them, but for some of them they are all about, the A1C level and bringing those things down. And while those medications can be very helpful for people, we'd really rather see you
Control
not
it
having to get to
through,
that point.
control it through diet.
Correct. And if you can't, or if you're starting to creep up and you need a little help, do some supplements while you're working on your diet, and then ease off those supplements so that you're just doing diet. Just depends on where you are in your journey.
Some
But
of
we
those
hate to see you get that far.
Same companies that are some of the national providers of junk food. Also, that's a subset, and they provide some of the GLP-1s too. That they're creating this problem, and then they're making $1,300 a month per person treating the same problem they've created. So it just makes me angry.
Me too. Well, and another thing too is like there's no magic pill. There's no magic shot. The shot is not magic. You still have to do the work. I had a really interesting conversation with one of our customers, and he is recently on Ozempic. And he said, the doctors never told me that if I didn't follow the diet, that I would actually really feel horrible. Like, everybody thinks it's like, oh, you just give yourself the shot, and you go on with your day, and you eat whatever you want. It's not true. You still have to do the work. So why not do the work without having to take the medication and get it done ahead of time before you get to that point? Any other questions? You guys are doing great.
I
Yes?
have a comment.
Yes.
We live in Whitewater and we have Walgreens and Walmart. I wish we had a pharmacy like you guys.
Oh, thank you.
For $6, Pat will send your prescription over to you twice a week.
Yeah, we do deliver to Whitewater. And Mike won't mind if I go drive over and talk. Well, some days he might not mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
I'd like to thank you guys so much for taking the time and sharing your passion, because it's clear that you're passionate about this. And I'd like to thank a couple other people, Mother Mindy, for supporting this, because I've been bending your ear about this since like last November. Brett McHenry and Amy and everybody, and Bev was my moral support. I would call it, how do you do this? Or where's the dishes? And so she picked up each time and helped me troubleshoot, and it all worked out. And thank you all for coming, being here. So
And a big thank you to Liz for getting this
Yeah,
all
yeah.
facilitated. And all the great food ideas. Good job.
All right, and for those of you that are interested in the free consultation, leave your test back on the table back there, and I'll put it in a drawing and we'll pick one or two. Okay, so.
And the A1C test was a piece of cake. Oh,
Yep.
sugar-free.
And when I get the results, I will let you know, and then you can share with
I'll
whoever
share
you
with
want.
them.